Do you ever feel like in your parenting that you've reached the point of no return? I know I did so many times. I was working so hard to repress my intensity, and yet I was catching hot potatoes all over the place from my daughter, from the world, and that intensity would just rise up, and I'd repress, and rise up and repress, and rise up and repress until I reached that point of no return. And whammo, I was screaming, I was yelling, I was running out of the room, screaming like a banshee, hiding in the bathroom. I mean, I was shocked at all of the behaviors that came out of me when I reached that point of no return. And I know I talk to so many other parents who work so hard, and I'm sure you're one of them if you're listening to this podcast, and I bow down to you. I just literally bow down to you and how hard you are working to contain yourself, repress yourself, to avoid, just do whatever you're doing to try to be that parent that you've always dreamed of being. I know you are working on being conscious. We all are. And yet, what that conscious label kind of puts on us is that means that we always have to act peaceful. So when we hit that point of no return, remember our work is to bring consciousness to what our internal experience is as that heat is rising, as that energy is building. But so many of us are only conscious of the external. So we're focusing on our children's behavior. We're focusing on if they're listening to us, if they're respecting us, if they're doing what we want them to do. So when that energy is focused on them, we are become very unconscious about what's building up inside. That the energy inside us is building like a pressure cooker. And if we don't let that pressure off a little bit, like we do with a pressure cooker, we're going to explode. And that is when we meet that place, that point of no return. And then at that point, when the pressure cooker goes, everything just goes to hell, right? It just blows. Now, right, this is so, if you can really become conscious of this, you won't get so caught in beating yourself up because usually once we go past that point of no return, we do act out. Our early strategies come up, whether it's, as I say, running out of the room, screaming like a banshee, screaming at our child, trying to massively control everything, whatever the strategy is that you learned or you've been carrying around comes out in a behavior form, then what we do is we beat ourselves up. We feel such incredible guilt and shame. Like, I read all the books. I know how to be conscious. I know what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to be regulated. That's my job. And so then we just get that whip out and we just whip, 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 whip. Now, what that does, I want to tell you, when we go there, we're refusing to be intimate with where we are. Like, oh my goodness, my energy just came up. It got really, really, really intense and intense, intense. I did not know how to ground it. I wasn't taught. I haven't practiced. So my energy did blow. And there's actually even a moment of release. Whew, it's like, oh, that felt so good. And then boom, this huge backlash comes. Because we look out and we see, with the pressure cooker, we see the mess all over the kitchen, or we see the look in our child's eyes, or we look around and we all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, that wasn't what I meant to do, but look. But I guarantee you, in the moment when the pop happens and you release, there is an energetic release. Now, the guilt and shame just starts building us up again. We just start pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. And then we're going to have that charge that's going to get so intense. We're going to be looking outside. We're going to be conscious of what's happening outside. When we say our kids are pushing our buttons, they're not pushing our buttons. They're just running their energy, right? We push our buttons. We have that internal capacity to turn back in and to be aware, be conscious of what is happening on our internal experience. That's our adult capacity. That's what consciousness is to be aware. It's not to be this peaceful or be restrained or be repressed, whatever. It's to be aware of what is actually happening in your internal being. And then to start working with that. Once we bring deep awareness in Pure Joy, we like to bring awareness to the 4 parts of an emotional trigger. And those 4 parts are our sensations that begin to build in our body when we're not getting listened to or being listened to, or our kids aren't respecting us. All these stories start. We start to recognize our sensations. I have heat in my chest and the energy starts to move up. We become aware of our thinking. What are we thinking? Like, my child needs to listen to me. If they don't, they're going to never get a job, and then they're going to be a serial killer, and then they're going to be a drug addict. If we listen to our crazy thoughts, right? We start to recognize those and that emotional trigger. They have nothing to do with reality. So we notice that our thoughts are really getting out there. We notice our feelings. Usually we're going to feel rejected, abandoned, powerless, helpless. So again, remember those energy charges we talked about the last couple of weeks. Those feelings have a lot of energy in them. So that's going to start to build those feelings. And then the 4th part of the trigger that we start to watch in our patterns is, how do we express all of that? How do we behave? Now, once we see that, instead of just doing it over and over and over again and then beating ourselves up, then repressing the energy and starting the whole pattern again, if we bring consciousness to those sensations, those feelings, that thinking, we can actually go to a safe place. And in Pure Joy, we go to our safe seat, or our sacred seat, which we'll talk about more as we go forward, the distinction between those two. But we go to a safe place where we can actually start to work with that intensity of energy. We can ground it down instead of expressing it out through behavior that's going to take us back into that loop of beating ourselves up, feeling guilt, feeling shame, and then we just do the same pattern over and over and over again, over and over and over and over again. So come and join us at Pure Joy. Come check us out, purejoyparenting.com. Come do some of the work. As I say, in our small groups, we do that work. In our Parenting Pause course, we have other offerings. I have my Pure Joy Walk Talks. If you want a little burst of energy every day during the work, go check those out on the website. Just go to offerings. And if you're really bold, and if you really want the speedy course and really are ready, come and join our Pure Joy Parent Coach training, which will be starting in September. All right, have a great week, lovies. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Pure Joy message out. Come on over to the Pure Joy Parenting Practice Facebook page, or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Pure Joy website. And while there, check out the offerings page to go deeper in the Pure Joy work.